Want to make one announcement. This is a closed meeting, no public input. If somebody wants to talk, they'll be asked to leave. If they don't leave, the sheriff is back there. He will escort them out. I want to make that perfectly clear. Roll call.
Carnett?
Here.
Markelius?
Here.
Steiner?
Here. Verification of posting.
Notices were posted at Town Hall, the Port, South Fire Station, and the Courier and Riverville were notified.
Okay. We got to appoint an alternate zoning administrator for the Pattison Sand Company application. Mike, what's your...
I'll take along, and I'd like to see Donnie McGuire take care of it for right now. Down the line, it can be changed if it has to be, or if somebody else has got better interest in it at that time. So I would make a motion to approve that Donnie McGuire be the zoning administrator for now.
I'll second that motion because he's been the zoning administrator before. He's got experience in it. I'll second it. Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Discuss Pattison Sand Company non-metallic mining application.
Well, I guess if you want, John, you have their permit application. You have held a public hearing as required. I think you've done everything that's required. I mean, you can consider granting or denying that permit tonight. If you look through your ordinance, if you look through NR 135, basically what the law says is that you must approve that permit unless you find one of the things in NR 135-2022. I mean, we can work our way through those things if you want. But if you do not find one of those things, what the law says, you have to approve the permit. Okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you want to look at the first, you know, the first one basically says that after being given an opportunity to make corrections, they have failed to provide an adequate permit application, reclamation plan, or financial assurance. So, you know, I think we've got to discuss whether or not those are adequate. The permit, the plan, and the financial assurance plan. That's really your first decision. So, you know, you have had the town engineer has reviewed both the application and the reclamation plan. I think that I think Delta 3 has made it pretty clear that the permit was the application was acceptable. Mm-hmm. They seem to believe that the reclamation plan is acceptable. You know, while you were here, Mike was, you're here by phone, Mike was here. I mean, Dan made his presentation. I think
right.
If you guys want to discuss that, you can. You know, that's as it relates to the application and the reclamation plan. As far as the financial assurance, I did receive from Dan today. I got an email from him where he basically went through, and he is recommending that the board accept basically a performance bond in the amount of $164,000 for the financial assurance. I gave you that email. You can read through it. He kind of breaks down how he came up with that number. You know, with the kind of the overall theme of that email being he came up with those numbers really under the worst case scenario, i.e. Pattison basically goes out of business, they shut down and disappear. He thinks that is the number that you would need to basically finish reclamation if you had to basically just start from scratch. Okay, and basically what that means is the town will hold a bond. If they don't do what they say they're going to do, the town can then call that bond to reclaim the portion of the project that needs to be reclaimed. Okay, so that's the financial assurance part. And I do know, and my understanding is that Pattison is okay with that amount and with posting that bond.
And that's going to be reviewed every several years. Right. To keep it updated with
right
changes.
Yeah, the law provides that can be. We can review the amounts of that as certainly the amount they are doing, the amount, because costs may go up and down over the years, and that way we can adjust the amount of that bond if necessary. But that's the amount that he's recommending right now, and that's the amount that we provide.
Okay.
That was one of the biggest things I was concerned with, the financial assurance to it. Looking at what it is at $164,000 for the 5 steps that they've got, 6 steps that they got going on here. It's more than adequate, to my knowledge of what goes on with dirt, sand, reclamation, that kind of stuff, excavating. So I've got no problem with the assurance bond. Reclamation plan is already in effect that way. And as far as the other ones that failed to provide any adequate permit application, that's already in for it. So I really don't, as far as number 1 is, I don't have a whole lot of problems with what's going on with that one. As far as
I don't either. I don't either. Delta 3 had some questions, and Patterson's answered all the questions, and they're comfortable with the application. So.
Well, are you comfortable that basically the permit application, the reclamation plan, and then the assurance, you're comfortable with those?
Yes, I am.
Mike, you're okay?
I am too, yeah.
All right. The next thing you have to look at, the next question basically is, you would have to find that the site cannot be reclaimed, basically in compliance with the standards set forth in your ordinance. In other words, NR 135. NR 135 sets forth the basically standards by which the properties will need to be reclaimed. Their plan addresses how they feel they need to deal with that issue. Dan has Delta has addressed that as well. I think it is Delta 3's opinion that the property can be reclaimed if they do what they're supposed to under the plan.
Sure.
But if you guys have questions about that, that's your decision now, I guess, in terms of whether you think the property then can be reclaimed.
I can't see why it can't be reclaimed.
Looking at their soil layers that they had in there as far as clay and the rest of the stuff that has to be overburdened and stuff like that, that has to be reclaimed to be able to do some kind of a topsoil. The majority of it looks to me like they've got over 2 feet or better to 4 feet in most cases. Even some areas there's 5. So as far as I'm concerned, the site can be reclaimed. As to the ordinance on NR 135, there's the majority of everything that's in there. We had it before, through the map that he had, the soil.
Down the road is the DNR, whatever changes their permitting, their guidelines, Patterson's got to comply.
Certainly.
Otherwise they'll be shut down.
Certainly.
Whether it's the DNR, OSHA, their own people, Hemshaw, and then even our gentleman that we're gonna have keep an eye on it. And all of those can at least shut it down for any violations or anything that they have also. So my whole idea about this thing is I think the standards that they're set by here in NR 135 pretty well takes care of everything that we can even think of
Right.
doing. The rest of it's taken care of, whether you're looking at what happens here, what happened at 3M with theirs, they had to spend money on because DNR shut them down in their operation, you had to fix it, blah, blah, blah. It can happen in any place, so.
And keep in mind too, the town has the authority, after if you issue the permit, the town has the authority to basically inspect that site at any point in time that they want to. Now, whoever does the inspection has to have proper training and those types of things. So we might want to talk about that in an upcoming meeting as to, okay, how are we going to evaluate this thing and make sure they're doing what they're doing and make sure that we get the right people on site. But you do have that ability to enter at any point in time. But in any event, that's not exactly related to whether or not you think that the site can be reclaimed, but if you feel that it can be, if you want, we can move on to the next one.
Let's move on.
Basically, the third reason that you could deny the permit is that the applicant, or basically his agent, et cetera, during the course of non-metallic mining in Wisconsin, within 10 years of the permit application or modification request, basically show a pattern of serious violations of the chapter, or basically of state or local environmental laws related to non-metallic mining reclamation, okay? The important thing that you have to keep in mind here, qualifiers being that violations, if any, have to have occurred in the state of Wisconsin, okay?
Yep.
And have to be related to reclamation, okay? Violations that if there are, if you are aware of serious violations, and if they have occurred in the state of Wisconsin, they also have to be related to reclamation before you can consider them under this section. Okay, so I'm not sure if you're aware of any. I'm not, but I wouldn't, that would be no more than I in terms of if there have been or anything like that. Statute basically says that when you look at a pattern of serious violations, you look at basically circuit court or administrative proceedings in which a judge or an administrative law judge has said there is a violation, where someone has pulled or revoked their permit because of the serious violation, or if they basically pulled the assurance. In other words, they've cashed in the assurance bond. So I don't know if you have any of those things. Now's the time to talk about if any of those things exist. But that's really your third reason for possibly denying.
I guess what I did is I got a hold of Kyle Kozak, who's project manager with the Boswell plant, okay? And they've been running over there for 2 years, have had no penalties in operating for the last 2 years. I stopped over and talked to him for, I don't know, half, 3/4 of an hour to see what kind of problems they had had, or if they had had any problems, and at that time there was none. They're basically running 167 yet last year as far as time on the road. So as far as violations in Wisconsin in the last 10 years, from what I gather, there is none. There might be planned stuff in another state, but not in Wisconsin.
The town chairman was at the Bridgeport at the fire station meeting, and he said the town had no problems with that, absolutely none. And the neighboring wells and houses had no problems.
I talked to 2 of the people who live close to them, right on the access road, and the other one lives just down about a 1/4 mile, and they had no problem with it at that point in time, so.
What's next, Todd?
Well, that's it. I mean, those are basically your three grounds under NR 135-22. If you find those, you have to deny. If you don't find those, you basically have to approve the permit. Okay. Now would also be the time to discuss. You are allowed to place conditions upon the reclamation permit, okay, if you think any are necessary. Okay. And when I say conditions, those conditions are limited solely to reclamation.
Right.
Okay. If there is something that you think isn't already covered or adequately covered in NR 135, or what the plan has provided for, or what Dan has already addressed, if there is something that you think you need to talk about, now is the time. If not, I would say, NR 135 is pretty comprehensive. It covers, as far as reclamation goes,
right.
And that's what this discussion is limited to. It does cover, it covers a lot. The plan covers a lot. Dan was pretty in depth with what he was asking for on reclamation. But if there is something else that you think you need to discuss, now's the time to do it.
Okay. Mike, you got any ideas?
I guess the biggest thing I looked at, and I checked the maps and everything, what they've got in there as far as the groundwater protection and the monitoring plan that they have yearly, and all that will come to us, to the town board, each and every year. The quality, of the water system itself, they will make sure that surface water, surface from the mine stormwater retention in the mine area. They're using a system where it's gonna be a 5 foot to the top, would be an overflow down into another one, and all the water's basically running away from all the mining itself. So any surface water will not enter into the, other than maybe rain directly in the spot itself. But the berm system and everything that they've got in this, and then their road system that they got, 2 20-foot lanes and a 4-foot center lane with a pitch center, that they'll make sure that all the stuff that comes off the road's gonna dump in that middle section and run away from it.
Yep.
You know, so I guess, and some of those things are, other things are taken care of by the DOT, all the licensing that they've gotta do that way. So, looking at what that is, probably the only thing, and maybe it's got nothing to do with it, I'm curious, just as a person, I'd like to know that if certain things happen, if the lighting has a problem, if that kind of thing, you will address those, Kyle?
Yes.
You will address anything that the neighbors have a problem with at that time? All right? Because I'm not about to give this thing straight up and say, okay, you got it, you can do what you want, because that's the reason we want to try and stop this. So I just got away from that, but I wanted to make sure I interjected and said something about that. As far as the rest of the stuff, doing with it, like I said, there's so many entities that take care of it. I really don't know where to be able to do any changing on it. You know, like I said, it's pretty well concise. Like I said, so I really don't, myself, I don't have any other, like I said, the surety of the water, as far as the blasting from the Olson people, you know, and that kind of thing, to make sure that the structure previous to that and the water wells previous to that are all checked, to make sure that anybody within any distance, so without any problem with whatsoever, are taken care of. You know, so I'd like to see that done prior to anything being done at all, so we make sure that everybody's taken care of, you know. And we know that if anything like that, that's your responsibility to take care of anyway, right?
When they have to get half a mile or whatever.
Well, yeah, I've seen cracks in some things a little more than half a mile. So anyone within that distance, even to our swimming pool over there in Prairie, from their blasting up past your house, they've lost a little water, and they figured that's what it was from. So I'm just saying, I'd rather be the neighbor, make sure I took care of, or at least looked at it, make sure everything was taken care of prior to doing it. So
we spoke to companies and
All right.
set up as far as Vibrotech to check as far as impacts of blasting, and a company, a hydrologist related to the wells.
okay,
And we've done preliminary planning for that. Companies are ready to get started on that when things are approved.
okay. John, what about you?
I agree, 100%. The way that Dan Dresden went over the thing, I'm very comfortable with what he found and what he told us, and I think everything should be done and done the right way. I can't look at it any other way.
Because I can't make them the decision on something that a mine up north did it. This is this entity right here trying to do this. So whether it happened up north someplace, it's got nothing to do with us here. This is a new entity. So.
We got a complaint of too many people in here that we're violating the fire code.
How many is it supposed to be?
I don't know, but I'm sure we're over it. I don't know what the number is in there.
Okay, I'll leave.
No,
Not a problem.
No, I'll leave too.
I'm not leaving. Not a problem, everything's going good, I'm gonna leave. I ain't gotta do any hair work, but you know what? This is bullshit. People are right, it shouldn't even happen. You own the property, you should be able to do what you want.
I agree, but you want them to say,
Fact.
What's your thoughts? I'm not up on the meeting slot and fire code, so.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the number is in here. I have no idea if it is.
It used to be years ago, this paper probably yellowed and probably got thrown away.
I guess the only other way is if we had this door wide open, we'd have another exit out of it too. If we open that door and keep that wide open.
If there's, I mean, if there's no other conditions, you probably, I don't know how much more you want to talk about, we're real close.
Yeah.
So, we'll open that for us, if you would there, sir. So we got another exit out if we had. Hold the door back far enough so they can make their way out.
So,
Yeah. I think you're gonna be done.
2 minutes?
Yeah. All right. I mean, unless you find one of those, unless you found one of those 3 items that we just talked about, I think that, what your ordinance and what NR 135 says that you have to approve the permit. So I think that's where you're at right now.
Okay.
I think what you look at is a motion to, basically to approve the permit with the assurance of the $164,000 national insurance.
Right. I'll make that motion that we approve the permit with the $164,000 bond being sold before they start.
I'll second it.
Motion made and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Motion adjourned.
Been motion to adjourn.
I'll second that motion. Motion adjourned, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
aye.
Again.
No,
What I was telling you about.
Unbelievable what you've done to the community.
Then you guys got your choice.
Already taken care of.
I appreciate it.
The meeting's over.
It's over, yep.
So we should be free to speak.
I know, but we got so many people here, we're just trying.
I would think so. Huh?
We got so many people back here, we're just trying.
Right, I'm letting the people closer to the door leave first.
Very calm.
You know what's clicking in?
It's okay, yep.
We think conditional have a meeting, and so we're talking about.
Believe me, I'm on either side. I'm just
You bet. Yep. When the planning commission went through question number 2, injurious to neighboring properties, I never saw one evidence of consulting medical experts. No evidence of consulting medical experts. That's not due diligence. That whole vote yes by the planning commission is crap.
You got him. I'm used to being sitting up there on the hot seat.
Your property, I just start storing better ways over at my place. Would that be okay with everybody? We just started crack fire. Yep. Oh, they won't talk to you. They won't talk to anybody. They don't care. They don't care a bit. Yeah. This thing was planned and decided 6 months
Or to the attorney, or the damn
Yeah, Mark. I think they did the right.